Hello everyone, welcome back to another English online session. Today I am going to narrate the summary of the lesson A Legend of the Northland. It is included in the text Beehive and the fifth unit of this text. A Legend of the Northland is a ballad. A ballad is a poem narrating a story in short stanzas. Ballad is such kind of poem which tells a story in short stanzas, and in the poem, all the stanzas comprise four lines. In total, there are 16 stanzas in this poem, and these stanzas will tell us a story. Ballads are a part of folk culture or popular culture and are passed on orally from one generation to next. Folk culture is a story of any area and is known as ballad. Folk culture comprises of traditional stories which are passed on from one generation to next generation. This story is of the Northland area. The area is near the North Pole. This exact place is not specified, but Northland means the area in the northmost part of the earth, near the North Pole. Legend means a historical story, one which is very old and has been passed on from generation to generation. This is the story of a saint and a woman who was very greedy and not ready to be generous. So what happened to her? This was narrated here in this poem. Now let me give you a brief outline about the person who wrote this poem. Phoebe Cary was an American poetess and the younger sister of the poetess Alice Cary. The sisters co-published poems in 1849 and then each went on to publish volumes of their own. After their deaths in 1871, joint anthologies of the sisters' unpublished poems were also compiled. So these are the details about the writer of this poem. Now let me narrate the summary of this poem. In the region around the North Pole, the duration of the day is very less because its position is such that the sun's ray reach for a very less time. When this area is experiencing winter season, the duration of the night is very long and the daytime hours are very less. In line 4, they refers to the people who live in this region. The poet says that the duration of the night time is so long that the people cannot sleep them through. If they go to bed, take a few hours of sleep, and then they wake up, it is still night time. He wants to emphasize on the fact that the duration of the night is very long. The Northland region experiences severe cold conditions. It is a snowy area. The reindeer is an animal which is found in this polar region. People tie their reindeers to sledges and then the reindeers pull the sledges. He adds that the children look like young ones of a bear because they wear funny looking clothes made of fur, which is like the furry skin of a bear. So, in the first few lines, the writer giving a description of climate, the lifestyle of the people, and the dress they used to wear, and what kind of vehicle they use. Sledges pulled by these reindeers. Everything is given like a picture. It was given within a few lines. Here in the third stanza, they refers to the parents or elders, and them refers to the children or the younger generation. The elders of the Northland region tells a strange and interesting story to the young generation. The poet says that he doesn't think that the story is true, but if he tells the story to the readers, maybe the reader could learn a lesson from it. The story gives an important message. The story is about Saint Peter. When Saint Peter used to live in the world and went around giving religious lectures to the people, just like all the other saints do, then an incident happened. So now the poet, personally not agreeing with the story, it wasn't happened really, but why he was telling this story through this poem, it has a moral lesson. Those who read this poem would understand a moral lesson, why a person should not be so greedy. When Saint Peter was moving around the world giving religious lectures to the people, he reached the door of a cottage where a small woman was making cakes. She was baking the cakes in the fireplace. As Saint Peter had not eaten anything the entire day, he was very hungry and was feeling weak. So he went to this woman who was baking cakes and he asked for one cake out of the many cakes that she had baked. The woman was selfish. She did not give cake from her store. Instead, she started making a very small cake for Saint Peter. She did not want to share her things, but when she put the cake for baking, she looked at it and thought that this cake was too big to given to someone. Here we can understand what kind of a lady she was. She didn't ready to give the cake what she made, and also she was making a very small piece of cake that also she was thinking it was too big to give away. She could not refuse his request. So she was making the smallest one. That kind of a greedy woman she was. The little miser woman thought that the cake was too big to be given away. So she started making another smaller cake. When she looked at the cake, she again felt that it was as big as the previous one. Again, she was not ready to give this smaller cake to the Saint Peter. The third time, she took a very small amount of dough and rolled it. The poet says that the rolled and rolled to lay emphasis on the fact that she rolled the dough and made it very thin like a wafer and baked it. But she was so greedy that she couldn't give that thin piece of bread to the saint. So she was making smaller and smaller and smaller piece of cake. Still, she made a thin piece of cake that also she wasn't ready to give to the saint. The woman reasoned that when she ate the cakes, she felt that they were very small. But if she had to give them to someone, she felt that they were too big to be given away. She put all the cakes on the shelf of her kitchen and she did not give any cake to Saint Peter. Saint Peter became angry. He was very hungry, he was feeling very weak, and the selfish woman was not ready to give him even a small cake. This behavior of the greedy woman angered the saint. Saint Peter cursed the woman and said that she was very selfish. She did not deserve to live like a human being. He added that God had given her food, shelter, fire to keep warm, but she had become selfish for all the resources she had. She did not want to share them with anybody. Here the saint became angry because of the attitude of this woman and he cursed her. He said that she is not deserved to be remain in a human form because according to him God blessed her with all the facilities or whatever she needed, but she is not ready to share with any fellow person. That's why this saint became very angry and cursed her. Saint Peter cursed the woman that hence she would become a bird because she did not deserve the human form. She shall become a bird, and just like birds build their houses by boring into wood and collect very little food by working hard the entire day. Similarly, she would also work hard in the dry wood all day and get little food and make a smaller place for herself to live in. As soon as Saint Peter cursed the woman, she did not get a chance to speak for herself because that very moment she flew up to the roof through the chimney and flew out in the form of a bird. Saint Peter's curse had converted the woman into a bird. So this saint has cursed her and she became a woodpecker, a bird, a woodpecker, which drill all the day on the dry wood to find a worm or something. And the same way to find it very difficult to make its own nest. Such a difficult life she was going to lead from that moment onwards because she was so greedy that she wasn't deserved to be a human being. When the woman turned into a bird, at that time she was wearing a red colored cap on her head. This cap was there on the bird's head also, but the woman's remaining clothes had burned and turned black in color just like a coat. People who live in the countryside, even the small children who go to school, seen this kind of bird in the woods. They see that she stays there all day and keeps on digging the wood with her beak to collect her food. Whenever any child sees this kind of bird, then his elders tell him this story. They say that the bird used to be a woman earlier. She was very greedy, and so she was cursed by Saint Peter and turned into a bird. They get a teaching that they should not be greedy. Like the writer said in the beginning of this poem, the story may not be believable. So the reader may feel like it may not happen. But the moral conveyed through this poem is very important because we should not be greedy. We should ready to help others. If we have something, we should ready to share. Then we can make this world a better one. This is the message the writer trying to convey to the readers. I hope you have understood the summary of this poem and the message conveyed in this poem. Now, all of you just read the text. Don't forget to have a dictionary while reading. Whenever you find a new word, just mark it. Try to find the meaning from the dictionary and write it above it. And also just search for more ballads like this conveying moral values. See you in the next class. Bye.